the Empowering Youth Show, and today we've got someone not just here to empower youth, she is an amazing empowering youth, and she should also be on the Empowering Women Show, but she is absolutely someone I've been waiting to bring to the show. So without further ado, I want to make sure you guys get to know who she is. Lashai Ben Salmi. Now, that list on the top, that's just all I could squeeze into that line, right? She's a speaker, she's an author, she's a coach, and she's a youth advocate. And I've known her for half her life, right? But let me give you some of those highlights of the achievements, even though she's 20 years old, the amazing achievements, I kid you not, amazing achievements that she's already achieved in her life. So she was an author at the age of 11. Her first book that she got published was at 11 years old. Now, since then, she's gone on and she's now authored 5 more books. And she's not stopping there, I promise you. And on top of that, she has been a coach and a mentor for 10 years. Now, some of you might go, oh, they're just saying that. I've already told you, I've known her for half her life. And she literally has been taking on coaching roles. And in the last half, mentoring people, adding so much value to their lives. And you're about to get a flavor of it. So it's not just me saying it, right? I want you to get clear that she is a content creator, and she had over 6 million views on her content. So remember, her coaching, her impact is wide. Now, on top of that, she already has a goal and a target, and that target is to create this youth platform that has over 1 million users by 2022. And she's on point for it, right? And in relation to the Singha Foundation Youth Leadership Summit, she's done the whole thing, right? So she's a graduate of our program, she's been an alumni, she became a coach, then she became a lead coach, and then she became a speaker. And at lead coach and speaker level is where they kick my ass, right? And they take the program to another level. That's why I love her dearly. That's why I've been waiting and waiting, just with her schedule, my schedule, to get her to come and share with you. And let me give you her mission, what her life's about. This is the one thing that she's always on about. She said, no one can walk your walk. No one can talk your talk, and no one can dance your dance. You're beautiful, perfect, and unique just the way you are. Never let anyone else tell you otherwise. How amazing is that? Let's bring her on straight away, because I know time's that. Lashai, you there?
Hi, Harry. Thank you for having me.
Do you know what? It's like when you work with young people, you see people over the years. It's like you've gone from this tiny little baby to this beautiful woman, and it's like I'm still thinking, oh, wait, she's 20 years old. For everybody else, it's like they don't know. So brilliant. Listen, here's what I'm going to do. I've given people a little flavour of some of the stuff that you're doing now, right? And what I want to do, like we always do on this show, I want them to hear your backstory. So even though you're only 20 years old, I know you've had some ups and downs and some roller coasters on your journey. But let's give people a flavour of where you went to get you to where you are now, with being such an amazing content creator, impacting and serving, speaking, coaching, mentoring. Give them a little bit of the backstory. Go for it.
Oh, once again, thank you so much for having me. Like you said, we've known each other for so long, so it's a really nice full circle moment to be here with you. So my journey really began at the age of around 7 or 8. So I went for a really horrid bullying experience in school. And this would have been back in 2007, 2008. And I wasn't able to comprehend what bullying was. There wasn't as much awareness out there and around. So I just kept it to myself. But thankfully, Mum noticed the change in my character. She ended up having to take me out of school because the school wasn't doing anything about it. And then during that period of time where I was waiting for my next school placement, I was going to personal development events with my mum. So initially, as a young kid, I was like, oh my gosh, all of these people are like 30 plus, they're all old. Like, what are they talking about? I wasn't really catching the flow initially. But as kids, we're sponges. So I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Or that's a really cool technique. Or, wow, that person also went through something really hard and they were able to turn it into something amazing. So I made it my mission at the age of 8, 9 to want to create a safe and supportive environment for young people and children and youth, where they could be celebrated, share their ideas, turn their adversity into empowerment, and be provided with the key tools and techniques to get them to where they desire to be. Then I went on to publish my very first book at the age of 11, and I've just continued ever since then.
You got people already coming in online giving it yes, Lashai, go. So people will know about your journey. And by the way, for those that don't know, with Lashai's mum, Sabrina. She's already on an episode of Empowering Women, so she's an amazing soul. So you went on that journey, and then where did it go next? What took you on that journey of, like, coming in and doing all the leadership summits and everything that you do now? What was next on that journey before we get to what you actually do?
Yeah, so I guess the next stage on my journey was I'm someone who's a natural introvert, so that might seem quite surprising, like if I do a lot of public speaking and you see me on stage and stuff, but I could be in a room and you would not know that I was there, and I'd be happy with that. But I realized that with great knowledge or a great desire comes great responsibility. So you kind of have to become selfless and step out of self in order to serve and provide. So I had to go and learn how to public speak, which was super, super scary initially, but I'm so grateful that I did, because I've been able to impact so many. One memory that really stands out for me is I was doing a presentation at a secondary school to like year 7. And at the end of my presentation, where I shared
for those that are not in the UK, let them know what ages year 7 are.
So year 7 are like 11 to 12-year-olds. So I was presenting to them, sharing a little bit about my journey. I think I might have been a year older than them at the time. And at the end of the presentation, a young girl came up to me and she said, "Thank you so much for sharing, because I was actually considering taking my own life and I didn't feel as though I had anyone to speak to, or as though anyone would listen to me or really resonate with where I was at." So so she came up, spoke to me, and that really hit home for me, because sometimes people pursue things for the glitz and the glam and the acknowledgement, but on a human level, it's just seeing who we can impact and touch. So that was the first step.
And how did you
public
feel?
speaking.
How did you feel at like 12 years old when you knew that this is that thing what you just said about being introvert? I always say people think public speaking and so on is for people who are stars, and I said not really, because introverts, they come to serve, right? And it's like when they're not thinking about themselves, and they're usually the quietest people in the party, right? But when it comes to being on a stage and you're like, I've got something to share with these people, and there you was with those 11-year-olds and so on sharing. But how did you feel that moment when that person came to you and said, "You know what, this is exactly like nearly saved my life"? How did you feel about it?
I think I was shocked, because it's all well and fine if you're on your own and thinking, "Oh, I have a good idea," or "I feel so I can help someone." When it actually happens, I was like, wow, like my story actually resonates with people. There are other people like me out there. So yeah, it made me feel happy to have the impact, but I was also so saddened by the reality of what young people go through. Yeah.
And that's what I love about you. You've always kept your humbleness. For both you and I have come from real humble beginnings. We've always been sensitive to other people's pain. But one thing I really want to get from you before we go into like what you do now and get some examples is we need to close the circle. Your mum tells the story every time of you coming to the Youth Leadership Summit. So we need to hear it from the Lashai angle. Right? So go ahead.
Oh my gosh. So I was told that I was going to stay with a family friend. I got on a train to Kent. I was with Mum. I was super excited.
Let's just do the backstory for some people. So Lashai's mum has contacted us at Foundation. She's found out for a mutual friend that we're running this program for young people. And her mum's thought, I want to get Lashai on there. Unknown to Lashai, gets picked up from school, gets told, "You're going to go away for a few days to a friend." So there you go. So carry on.
Yeah. So we're on our way there. We end up in Kent, and I'm like, okay, this isn't her house. Like, what's going on? So then I get there, and she's like, "Shay, you're going to stay here for a week." And I was like, what? I'd never stayed away from home for that long. So I was left there, but literally once again, being a natural introvert, I was terrified. But within the first half an hour of being there, being comforted by yourself, Harry, the other young people there, I felt at home. And obviously I've come back ever since. Yeah, but yeah, it was terrifying at first.
Because I remember your mum's side of the story, like first "What are you doing, Mum? What are you doing to me?" And then you didn't call her after the first day. She thought, "What happened to you?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm so busy, Mum," and so on. So, but the transformation has been brilliant. So we're all really proud that you found your voice. So now, what are you doing? Give us your own perspective of some of the amazing things that you're doing, so people get a flavour of what it feels like for the impact that you're creating now.
Thank you. Yeah, so ever since writing my first book, I've continued to write a few more. So I have, I think, 5 or 6. I'm working on another at the moment that ties into what I'm heavily working on at the currently. But a huge passion of mine has always been media and entertainment, and sort of showing the world how I see the world from my perspective. I've always loved media studies, movies, and all that. So I've
Mm.
actually gone on to create a program called You Smart, where I teach people how to share their ideas, share their passions online, because it's all well enough having an idea, but in this day and age, it can be so powerful if you know how to share that idea online. So yeah, I started on that journey because of my passion for media. I was studying it at secondary school, but they wasn't letting us edit, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really feel drawn to editing. I really want to do it. We were doing all like this textbook stuff and like filming, but I was like, I really want to edit. And at the time, my friends were getting into Korean pop music, so K-pop. So I would take clips that they would send me from like their favorite shows, edit them, make them a bit funnier, make like my own like kind of music video type stuff, do reactions, literally just for my own joy and wanting to
Yeah,
improve my
yeah.
skills. And then one day I woke up to like 10,000 views, 100,000 views, like it
Mm.
just kept growing. So yeah,
There you
that's
go,
like one of my
everybody. There's a
organic,
tip for
yeah.
you. K-pop. There we go. That's what it is. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
And give us maybe some of the flavour of the people that you work with now, any stories and so on, that that really light you up.
Yes, definitely. So some of the clients I've been able to work with on my journey and recently as well, have predominantly been young people, and I find it so interesting, sort of seeing the difference between young people when I initially started and young people now, and sort of the challenges that they face because they are very different challenges. But I've had clients that I've worked with recently that have been like, thank you so much for believing in me, because I've always just wanted to know that someone believes in me. I've always just wanted to have someone on my side to push me forward. Because sometimes we're not asking for the world. We just need someone to listen to us and to
Yeah.
feel heard and to feel as though we are valued in order to push forward. So that really does mean a lot to me when I work with clients and I see a huge change in their confidence and who they are as a person, and being unapologetically themselves and just pushing and thriving. So yeah.
And that's so beautiful to hear from you. I've been saying now for nearly like 35 years that if you could just listen and believe and hold a place for people, and then get over this I have to solve and fix everything,
Hmm.
because we're winging it. We were winging it before we put in all the time and energy and so on. So yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. But now listen, let's get to some. You know, you have so many things that you share. I know you're great at helping people create content, but any something that you do, because remember this show is for empowering youth, so it's for young people
Hmm.
who are in need for some enlightenment, some
Yes.
encouragement, and they need it more now than ever, right? So I want to get some wisdom from Lashai or what you want to serve there, but it's also for people who are empowering youth, so whether they're youth workers or so on. So let's get something
Hmm.
from a gem from you over the next 5-10 minutes where they can take away. So what would you like to share with them?
Of course. Well, I have like a signature program that I teach called Stepping Stones, and that's where I work with most of my youth clients. And one thing that's so, so important, and why I even called it Stepping Stones, is understanding the clear and attainable steps that you need to take to get towards your goal. So I always say to start where you're at. So how are you feeling? Looking inwards. You can do this through the processes like journaling, affirmations, talking to yourself. Sometimes we do so much work externally, talking to those around us, but we forget to stop and talk to ourselves and look inwards. So I challenge you today, if you've been feeling resistance towards something, if you've been feeling uncertainty, talk to yourself, ask yourself questions, have me time, journal, write. Writing can be an amazing way to release and to learn and to grow. So that would be my first step,
Okay,
as
so
such.
before
So
you move on to the
encouraging.
next, before you move, that
Mhm.
it's so important that I want to make sure people, because you say it, and it's like for all of us, we sometimes take for granted what we say. What you said is profound. So really, for young people, I want to make sure that before we get to the next step, and anybody else, that what I've picked up there from the show is one of our biggest challenges is having conversations with other people, telling them and so on. And people, therefore, they just don't do it and they keep it in. But what you've said is to have the conversation with yourself, get it out, right? Let it out, put it on paper, journal, get it out, do that. So it's so important. So that first step you said is having that conversation with yourself. So go ahead. What's the second step? I'm going to take notes as well, right?
Yeah, so I would say the second step then after that is is still doing the inner work, but that next step is to see what brings you joy. So like throughout life and when we have to work and take on various responsibilities, we tend to remove ourselves from the equation, remove our own joy, remove our own excitement from what we need to do because we get clouded by having to adult and I have to do these things to be sensible. And yes, be sensible in life, but
I'm
see
still
what
struggling
sparks
with that
joy
one.
for you. It can honestly, when you have a family, when you have responsibilities, when you run a business, when you start a project, you can sort of allow all of that to consume you and you forget about you. So a lot of these steps you'll find is doing the inner work and going deep. So see what sparks joy for you. Is it painting? Is it listening to music? Is it creating something? And don't feel guilty. Sometimes I find with my clients, and you would think young people, they love having fun and just letting loose and going wild. But sometimes they feel so guilty when they need to take me time. They feel so guilty when they want to pursue something that excites them. But don't be sorry. We're here on this plane. Like, don't want to go like become too woo woo or anything because everyone has their own individual beliefs. But I believe that we're here for a purpose, and that is to serve and support one another, but to also find what sparks joy for us and to enjoy our lives to the fullest.
Brilliant, brilliant. So we got that, the internal work, had that conversation with yourself. And it's really important that that distinction that you made. You know, too many people are saying to young people, what's your purpose? What are you doing? What's your goal? What's your mission? You're like saying, play, find out what lights you up. It's if you don't know, then try something. Go and get out there, find what gives you joy in your words. So brilliant. What's the next steps?
Yes, and so the next step is more of an external step, but I would then say to look at your circle. So who are you surrounding yourself with? And at times, I know as a young person, it can be difficult because the people that might be sucking a lot of life out of you might actually be the people that you live with. So I understand that could be very, very difficult. But within those circles, in terms of friends and stuff that you do have some control over, see if your circle of friends and the people around you, see if they serve a purpose in your life. And that doesn't just mean materialistically, but do they pour into you? Do they check how you are? Or are you always the one that's giving? Because
100%.
especially in this day and age where things are a lot of young people are consumed by materialistic things or just what's new, what's next, do they check in on you? Are they a genuine friend, or do you just keep them around because it's comfortable and familiar?
That's
So yeah.
beautiful. So for many of us that have all been through that teenage phase, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I remember most of our school reports were like, yeah, great kid, but easily disturbed, was it distracted by mates? And then I was like, I'm going to rebel against anybody that tells me who I have to choose as my circle. But what you're saying is take check of that yourself, right? Take check of who that is, who's draining your energy, who's lifting you up. But yeah, brilliant, brilliant. What's next? What's on the next step? These are brilliant stepping
Okay.
stones.
Oh, no, so glad that they resonate so far. So after that, I would say after sort of doing the inner work, refining your circle, then go take that next step and to see how you show up. Because sometimes it's so easy to point the finger and to say it's this person or this situation, but how are you showing up? Are you showing up as your best and highest self? Are you supporting those around you? And one thing that sort of comes into correlation to what I'm speaking about, but is giving back. And that doesn't mean that you have to donate to a charity, but how are you pouring back into your community? How are you pouring back into those around you? And how are we giving? Because giving is such an amazing part of life. And half of us wouldn't know a fraction of what we know today or have a fraction of what we know and have in this day and age if someone wasn't kind enough to give from a selfless space of just wanting to share. So yeah, I would say that's the next thing that you should look into doing.
I'm not going to say anything on that one because it's like it's there, right? It's there. How do you show up? How do you serve? That's vibrating in me like this, right? So I'm gonna let you carry on with your flow, right? What's the next? Are there next steps?
So I would say I can give like a last step, and this step comes up no matter what you're focusing on or what you're pursuing, and that is maintenance. And that might sound a little bit technical straight away, but how are you maintaining good relationships? How are you maintaining yourself? How are you maintaining your environment? Because a lot of the time for young people, like there's a stereotype of having messy rooms and stuff like that. But when you maintain your space and maintain yourself, you're going to see that hugely reflect in your relationships and the experiences that you have. A woman that I really love, I think her name's Marie Kondo, and she's like a Japanese lady. She has a show on Netflix, and seeing what sparks joy and keeping a really good energy flow in your space. So seeing how your environment supports whatever you're trying to achieve. Like if you're super messy, but you have like these really refined goals and dreams, that isn't really lining up. So just seeing how can you maintain your energy, your environment, and your space.
Beautiful. There you go. We got all those steps. So first step, have that conversation with yourself. Then get yourself and focus on what brings you joy. Then it's like, okay, now look out, right? So who's in my circle? Right? It's you got your family. They might drain you, but love your family. But choose your circle, right? And then you got this check in with how you show up, and it's that responsibility element of showing up and serving and helping other people. And then that last bit, what you call maintenance, it's when you break that word down, when you're maintaining, when you're consistent, when you're doing those rituals. And but the key word you said was your environment, not just the people now. Now it's the environment. So beautiful stepping stones. And for any young person that's listening in, I challenge you to use it. Because if you just sit there, it's like if you're like, oh, no, you got to start with step one. That's all you got to do is start with step one, right? And we're going to give you links to connect with Lashai at the end and so on, so people can ask her if you've got questions on it. For those that are working with young people, go ahead, use these processes, check in with Lashai, go and look for her stepping stone work. But all of this is for people to share, and it's one of the most beautiful things about Lashai when she was talking about that showing up and serving. I said, I'm not going to say anything because she embodies that, and you are that embodiment of it. It's like I can remember every single time you've been at the Youth Leadership Summits, or whether I've met you, even I've turned up at your events and come and did photos. I always look and I think to myself, you was that little girl that always wanted to, how can I help? Can I do this for you? And if anybody was like, doing something that didn't feel right, you'd be like, you're not the shit. Then you step up and go, no, that's not right. That's not right. And I always saw that, and you're constantly been helping people without it being a noise. And that's your energy that you bring here. So I want to honor you with that. And one other thing you mentioned about, young people and how you do it now. Whenever we get an amazing, super young person who is a youth that's empowering, I always want to ask that question, what do you believe? And it doesn't matter, whatever order, but what do you believe are the bigger challenges now for young people? And I want you to think about that in your mind, because today we made an announcement that the Youth Leadership Summit, the virtual Youth Leadership Summit, the Harry Singha Foundation, we're going to be running that as a 2-day virtual in August. And I know you're going to be part of it, but the key is when we got thousands of young people getting together on a virtual thing, I got one thing from the team. I want to learn from those young people what they need. So for those that aren't necessarily young people, because they probably got it right up here, but for people who are working with young people and watching this, what's your views, Lashai, and what are the challenges for young people now based on everything that's been happening, or just what you've experienced?
I think maybe one of the biggest challenges for young people in this day and age that young people might not even realize themselves is being able to achieve and to feel stillness because of the fast pace of how everything's moving, new content. I need to get something else out there. I need to get the latest this. I need to do this next. Achieving stillness, because when you become still, you re-energize. Like that's why we sleep. We let our bodies rest. We re-energize. We recuperate. I can't even speak. We like just allow ourselves to re-energize, to take that next step. So I feel as though helping young people to achieve stillness and a place of calmness so they can think and feel. Because when things are constantly at 100 miles per hour, you're not taking time to feel and to be still and to sit and see how things feel for you, not just how someone tells you that they feel. So I feel as though as a coach, and for any other coaches or anyone that supports young people out there, do your best to help them achieve stillness. This can be in the form of meditation, doing various processes. We've done some amazing processes at YLS that I still remember to this day. So I would say that's something that young people definitely need help with these days, and also just feeling heard. Sometimes we just need a shoulder to cry on, or just someone to speak to, and not feel judged or as though we're not good enough or this or that. So just being there, a full support, organically without judgment, I feel is super, super important.
There you go, guys. You heard it there. You know, the age-old ones of being heard without judgment, being present. You know, without judgment means let them. It's their opinion. Let hold it. But then you've also added in that one, Lashai, where what I've heard from you and I've heard from others is the big challenge for young people is, you know, keeping up with this turbocharged pace that we have information flowing every second at us, and people's opinions, and you know it's open. It's 24-hour attention. So yeah, and you actually gave the solution as well, right? So it's about getting people to get it back. It's easy to say to people, right? You know, slow them down, right? But it's that bit what you talked about, getting them to be able to have that silent time, slow their mind down, slow their thoughts down. And you say, like, you know, we sleep and so on, but people I know even sleeping now, right? They sleep with their phone, they wake up with their phone, they got stuff playing in their ears when they go. So yeah, it's the old evergreen challenges that young people face, but now it's compounded by this constant movement. So beautiful, thank you. So Lashai, what's next for you? I know it's like, you know, it's like, you're like in you're 20 now, and it's like, okay, what's the next 5 years, 10 years? And I know you've got big goals. The one thing is you make huge stretch goals, not just you. So you got like, what is it, 4 siblings after you, haven't you?
Yeah.
Right? And they are your pace setters. There's like, we always said, Lashai, they're all going to be brilliant. Like, you know, Trey coming after you. We all thought, man, they got to step up to the plate because Lashai did. But now I see them, like, you're like, oh my gosh, they're like right behind me. I've got to keep doing. So what's next for you?
Oh wow. Yes, so as a family, we're currently working on a really cool platform. That's the one that we have the aim for, which is called Next Gen Lodge, so that we can invest and pay it forward to the next generation and their ideas. So we're super, super excited about working on that. Another project for me personally, I've always loved culture and cultural connectivity, because when we work and come together, we can achieve so much more. So I work with the Korean Cultural Center here in London. And last year we put on like a cultural event, and it had like thousands of attendees, and it got acknowledged by the Korean government. So we're putting that on again this year. So that's really fun. But yeah, more books, various projects. No day is the same in my household. Yeah, so super, super excited, but just looking for ways to pay it forward and support the next generation.
Brilliant. And on that case of paying it forward, that was always a beautiful thing. I remember when your mum said, like, you know, you gave us a gift that we couldn't repay, and I said, Lashai has already paid it forward in more than what could have done. So what's the best way people can connect with your journey? I know, like, everybody that's been watching this, they're going to want to see how you do it. What's the best way? There are one or two, and we'll put those links under the YouTube, you know, the video that's there. But go ahead. What's the best ways for people to connect with you?
Thank you. So the best way to connect with me is probably through my website, which is lifeaccordingtolashai.com. So it's got a ton of info on me, my journey, and various projects, how to get in touch. There's also some information about my family and our collective projects. So that'd be the best way to get a hold of me, because I'm terrible with DMs.
Yeah, well, that's it. But lifeaccordingtolashai.com, right? We'll make sure, because from there, they can find all your other links and so on, right?
Yes.
All right, brilliant. I'm just going to give you the final word before I wrap up like I usually do. So, but I'm just going to say thank you so much, because, you know, I know you always say, Harry, I appreciate you, but I need you to hear it from me on a public platform right now. But I appreciate you. We've got more adventures coming together, and I'm going to try and keep up with the things that you're doing as well. But thank you so much for taking the time. Is there final words from you before I wrap up?
Thank you. And I'd just like to remind anyone watching, or if you can even pay this message forward on to someone else who really needs it, that you are beautiful, perfect, and unique just the way you are. So never let anyone tell you otherwise. And there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So try to learn from whatever life throws at you, and you can prosper and grow and learn from it and become the you that you're born to be.
Boom, drop the mic, but we don't hit the virtual. Right, so here we go, everybody. Let's wrap this show up as we always do. That's a huge, big thank you to Lashai. So what I want you guys to do is, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the show. When you subscribe to our channel, you get the Empowering Youth Show, you get the Empowering Women Show. If you've got any comments for Lashai, just sending her some love, do that. You've got all the links there for the social media for Harry Singha Foundation. You've got our foundation website, harrysingafoundation.com, where you can donate. And when you're donating, it's going to our Youth Leadership Summits and our Women's Empowerment Programs. And that's it for another amazing episode. I did promise you it'd be amazing. So I look forward to seeing you on another episode very soon of the Empowering Youth Show. Thank you very much, guys.